Hi everyone, my name is Serena. Welcome back to my channel. I am a little bit late with all of these end of the year videos, but before I talk about all of the books that I read in 2020, I have to do a December wrap up. And this is going to be quick because, you know, who cares? So here are all of the books that I read and all of the movies and TV show seasons that I watched in December. In December, I participated in 2 readathons. I participated in the DCG readathon, Disney Channel Games readathon, and I participated in the Reindeer readathon. I have vlogs for every single book that I read for the DCG readathon, so I'm not going to talk a lot about those books. I will link the videos down below and put them in the cards, because if you want to know my in-depth thoughts, you should check them out. But I read Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. I gave this one 2 stars. I really want to read more of Colleen Hoover. I think her later works may be more for me. I don't know. I'm just really picky with romance, and this was very depressing, and there were a lot of things that kind of bothered me. The reveals were shocking, but you know, I didn't like the characters and the relationship, and that's a big part of the book. Then I read Anxious People by Fredrik Backman. I gave this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. At the beginning, I really didn't know where this was going. It was very funny and weird, but then it really makes you think. It's emotional. I didn't cry, but it really made me think about how we have certain ideas about people and prejudice about people, you know. It really makes you think. Then I completed 2 series. I read The Last Olympian by Rick Riordan. This is the last book in the series. I gave this one, I think, 4.5 because I have no complaints about it. The only thing is that I think I'm too old for this series, but it's good. It's a good middle grade. Then I read The End by Lemony Snicket. I gave this one 3 stars because I was a little bit disappointed because a lot of things were left unsaid. It felt incomplete, you know, but Lemony Snicket never said it was going to be a happy ending. And finally, I read In a Holidays by Christina Lauren. I gave this one 3 stars as well because it was just an okay book. It wasn't bad, and it wasn't a favorite. That's it. It's a Christmas story. So all of these books I read for the DCG readathon, and I also read them for the Reindeer readathon, which were 9 books. So I read 5. The other 4 that I read were The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This is a book in verse. It is a contemporary about a Jamaican Greek character who lives in London, and it's about him figuring out himself, you know, growing up. It's from, I think it's it tells his story from when he was 6 until he was in college. So it's a really big time span at which we see how he grows. I gave this one 4 stars because I only give 5 stars to like absolute favorite books, and even though this is a very good book, it's awesome, and I do believe that a lot of people can relate to this, and you know, it's very emotional to a lot of people. I obviously can't relate like other people do, but this doesn't take away the fact that it's an awesome, great book. Then I read Fox and Socks by Dr. Seuss. This was for the prompt to read a book with a fox on the cover or in the title. I just needed a small book, and it's just fun, you know. I tried reading it out loud, and there are all these tongue twisters. My mind was, it shut down. Then I read With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. I have it here somewhere, but I'll put the picture up. I gave this one 5 stars because it was amazing. Apart from the fact that she said I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding like 3 times, I really enjoyed this book because it's about her figuring out what her next step in life will be. It's about the story of a girl who is a teen mom, and she's in her senior year of high school, so she's trying to figure out what she wants to do afterwards. She loves cooking. I like that they incorporate that Acevedo incorporated cooking in this book. There are a lot of a few recipes in here, so I really enjoy that. And overall, it was a really good book, honestly. It's a cute contemporary. The cover is gorgeous. Lastly, I read Cress by Marissa Meyer. This is the third book in the Lunar Chronicles. I really needed to continue on with this series because I read Scarlet last, like in 2019, and it was time. I read this for an intimidating book and The Christmas Star, so a book over 500 pages, because this is, I think, 550, but I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I think it dragged a little bit in the parts in which Cress and Thorn were walking in the desert. That part was a little bit too long, but I love all these characters coming together, and I don't want to spoil, obviously, but I cannot wait to see how this ends. Winter sounds like a very childish character, but I think she is like a little bit mentally unstable, but I'm curious to see what happens there. Also, if you read the Lunar Chronicles, you know that this deals with a virus as well, and ain't that relevant today in real life. So these are the 9 books that I read in December. I did not read the Slaying It book. I was going to read Pride, but I didn't have the time, so I'm going to read that this year. Let's talk about the TV shows and movies that I've watched. Basically, I watched everything Christmas. I watched Christmassy movies and Christmassy shows. I watched Dash and Lily's Book of Dares, or Dash and Lily, on Netflix. I think the first half of the show is better than the last half. In terms of screenwriting and in editing, I think the first half is better than the second half. I've read the book a long time ago. I didn't remember anything, only that it is set in New York City. But I loved seeing the Strand. I have like a similar picture of me in the Strand and the main character in the Strand. That was so fun. Oh my gosh, these people have such amazing houses. I really love Lily's house and her aunt's house, like her room. They're so cozy, and the books. And then there's this contrast with Dash's house, which is very cold. His father's house is very modern and like black and white. So I love that contrast. I really like that part in which Dash wrote on the mirror, "Get back out there, Lily," when she was at that Jewish party. That was so nice. But then towards the end, when that Sarah, I think her name is Sarah character came, I don't know. What's up with this truth or dare game? Like, why are teenagers so mean? You know, not kissing someone at 17 isn't that bad, honestly. Also, the characters don't look 17 at all, especially Edgar. He looks like he's in his 30s. And all of the parents just kept going away. Like, parent neglect was the big theme here. Like, these kids were on their own on Christmas. A lot of drinking in public as a minor. And the fact that Lily's brother broke up with Benny because he was going in Puerto Rico for 2 weeks. A bit extreme. That's why I'm giving it 3 stars, because the second half of this season wasn't as good as the first half, you know? The other Netflix show that I watched in December is Home for Christmas, and I think this show is from Norway, and it's about this girl who on the 1st of December goes to their parents for dinner, and her 2 siblings are married with kids, and her parents are just like, why aren't you in a relationship? Why aren't you married? You are 30. You should be thinking about that, you know. I hate this. I really do. And they kept diminishing her work because she's a nurse, because she doesn't know how it is to be a parent. And I'm like, okay, being a parent is hard. I know it's hard, even though I'm not a parent. But do not, you know, discredit my work because of that. Yo, I work all night as a nurse, you know, everything is valid. Your job is valid, my job is valid. Let's just stop. I think it's more of a realistic Christmas show, you know, like it's not all happy endings, you know, there are a lot of realistic stuff. She goes on a lot of dates, speed dating, she gets drunk a lot. Oh my gosh, they drink a lot. And a lot of embarrassing moments, cringy moments, a little bit misogynistic. You know, their parents kept saying like, you should get yourself a man, you're not getting any younger, stuff like that. The main character's voice in English sounded so much like Barbie, you know, the cartoon Barbie, it sounded so much like her. In the first season, when she does that speed dating scene, she bumps into another man and his papers fall on the ground, and I was like, oh my gosh, Love Actually. I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit, but I immediately thought of that, and then they talk about it, you know? He goes to the cinema with her and they go watch Love Actually. She loves Love Actually, but he doesn't. He thinks it's kind of sexist and all that. You know, I have my opinions because I watched that in December and I'm gonna talk about it in a little bit, but I just wanted to say how strange that is, because I watched Love Actually like the day before, and then I watched this show, and then, you know, spoiler alert, I agreed with the man. The way he talked about it wasn't cool, but I kind of do agree with what he said. There was one depressing moment after another, cringy moments. The parents, they weren't very welcoming to their guests unless, you know, it was a boyfriend. Stuff like that. So I think I'm gonna give it 2 stars, unfortunately. It won't stick with me. Now let's talk about the movies that I watched. I watched 8 movies in December, and the first movie that I watched was Holiday on Netflix. And you know those movies that are so dumb and so cringy and so bad? They're good. This is one of them. Like, it is so bad. Like, the first 10 minutes I was shocked. I was like not expecting this movie to be like this, you know, like it's so extra. The scene with the finger, the scene with the laxatives, I don't know, it was so extra, so dumb, but I enjoyed it, and I'm giving it 4 stars only for enjoyment reasons, because this is just one of those movies you watch with someone and you laugh your asses off, you know? The chemistry between Emma Roberts and the male character is so good and I just had so much fun. I think maybe there's some questionable dialogue and there's cheating, but apart from that, it was enjoyable. The next movie that I watched was The Princess Switch Switched Again. This is the second movie. I watched the first movie last year, I think, or 2 years ago? Last year, yeah. And I like that one because I love cliche Christmassy stories. You know, it's not a masterpiece, but I enjoyed it. This one though, I think it's like a 1.5 star. I don't know. There are 3 doppelgangers this time, and the third one, they kept saying, oh, I see the resemblance, and I'm like, dude, they are identical. How can you not see how they are identical? Oh, they look alike. I see the resemblance. No. They're literally the same person. They just didn't think. They were like, oh, if you're Stacy and you're Margaret, who is the other one? So dumb. Edward, oh, don't get me started on Edward. You don't know your wife. Basically, everyone is dumb, and there are a lot of cringy moments, like that scene at the airport. I don't know. And also, I feel like this story has been done so many times. So yeah, let's change some things next time. Okay, so I mentioned Love Actually, and I watched that. Unpopular opinion, I did not like this movie. I gave it 1 star. I don't know how to explain it, but I feel like this is a movie for women made by a man, if you know what I mean. I don't think that the female characters were represented well. There was a lot of fat shaming with the story. I don't remember the characters' names, but the prime minister and the woman, you know, she was fat shamed. And also Colin Firth's character with the Portuguese character, her sister at the end was fat shamed as well, and she was called ugly, I believe. There's cheating. They kept saying, God, you weight a lot, or your thighs are like tree trunks. She wasn't even fat, you know? Also, I don't like how they portrayed grief. Like, that kid's mom died and he was thinking about his crush. I don't know. I don't like that portrayal of grief. Some stereotypes, you know, with the Portuguese stereotypes and American stereotypes, with Americans being very open and kissy, and these sex slave jokes. And don't get me started on Keira Knightley and the dude that came to her door with cards. She kissed him? No. I am sure I'm not making any sense if you haven't watched this movie. Basically, that story was about this girl, Keira Knightley, married this man, and the husband's best man is in love with her, and he came to her door with cards saying that he loved her. She always thought that he hated her. Anyway, I'm not making a lot of sense. There was that other character who had a mentally ill brother, so her relationship didn't work out because of that. And I'm like, what? Why? The man was so annoyed with her calling her brother all the time, or responding to her brother, answering her brother. Yeah, I just didn't like it. I didn't find it romantic. I didn't find it heartwarming at all. Then I watched, and I almost forgot about this, Operation Christmas Drop. It's on Netflix. 2 stars. It was boring. I like that there is like some real life stuff, like they actually do this. They do drop off things to people on Pacific Islands, but yeah, I just found it boring. I completely forgot about it. It's about, I think, this character who works for the government, and they're trying to cut off this operation, and the man is not having it because he really loves this. He loves helping people. So this girl goes over there to look at the situation and see if it's worth cutting it off, and he warms her heart, and they drop off things together, you know, stuff like that. But they didn't have chemistry. I was bored and I kept getting distracted while watching this movie, so yeah, forgettable. I watched The Holiday, and this was a much better movie than Love Actually and the other 2 Netflix movies that I watched, because it was, you know, it was more for me. It's about these 2 women. One lives in Los Angeles. She's very rich. She makes movie trailers. This is, I think it was made in the early 2000s, so it has that vibe. I love it. And the other woman lives in the countryside in the United Kingdom, and they do a house swap because they're going through relationship stuff and they want to get away from that. So they do this swap, and it's so fun, and they meet people. I liked it way more than Love Actually. The last 3 things that I watched were Grinch related. I watched the cartoon How the Grinch Stole Christmas, that half-an-hour cartoon. A classic, nothing to say about it. It's good, great, 10 out of 10. Then I watched How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the 2000 one with Jim Carrey. nostalgic, 10 out of 10, funny. I know it's kind of gross and stupid, but I just, you know, it's nostalgic for me because I watched it when I was 3 with my dad at the theaters, and I just really loved it. I really love that in this movie there was more of a relationship between Cindy Lou and the Grinch, you know? We really see how Cindy Lou warms his heart up and makes, you know, really pushes him to come down to the town. And I say that because in the latest Grinch movie, The Grinch, which I watched, we don't have that, kinda. We do see her at the end talking with Grinch, but not during the movie. We do not have the father in this one. We have the single mother who is struggling. I feel like Benedict Cumberbatch wasn't a perfect match, you know? The voice wasn't it. Jim Carrey did a better job in my opinion. The Grinch was overall nicer. He was more depressing. Yeah. We have this other character though, this other animal, Fred. He was cute. I always get emotional at the end regardless, but definitely this Grinch wasn't at the same level. Great animation, you know, nice colors and visuals, but my favorite is the 2001. We also see how technology has become so much more important nowadays. Like when the Grinch is stealing Christmas, we see him using all this technology. I noticed that while watching this movie. And that's it, everyone. Those are all the things that I've watched and read in December, the last month of 2020. I cannot wait to read so much more this year, and I'll talk to you guys in my next video. Bye.